All right. So before we dig into our main topic of this last year, we want to go backwards a little bit. So building the trust to build the gap, lessons learned on how community organizations and public entities can navigate mistakes to capitalize support. Um, do, do, do. You're right, Megan. It is laggy. There you go. So just a synopsis here, and we're going to do an in-depth look on how a community organization and public entity sought to build trust through working together to improve and support public health, and how that relationship dampened negative outcomes of a damaging mistake. This presentation will serve to demonstrate how, in the midst of a tree loss tragedy, the commitment to rebuild, reforest, and return the ecosystem can be restored by showing acknowledgement and ownership of the tragedy, resolve to correct the systemic issues and the culture of, oh well. So before we get into that, there is a background of how this relationship first started between Dr. Chalk's organization and our public water utility. And I'm going to switch over to that video somehow quickly.
While you're doing that, Grace, I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah, please.
And so our relationship with Health and Community Services and the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans began through an effort with a grant from the U.S. Water Alliance. And it was designed to build trust between entities because the utility did not have a good relationship with the community. And out of that relationship, as a nonprofit organization, we were able to leave the public utility with assets that would help mitigate flooding it's particularly and specifically in the Seventh Ward. And so it became a model. The video that you all are about to see, it became a model on how community organizations can work with the public utilities. And so featured in this video is not only replicable of New Orleans, but is in Tucson, Arizona. So enjoy the video, everyone.
And we can see the video, correct? That's the
This way,
correct
yeah.
screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
So we've been in an over 20-year drought now. In Tucson, we have to do conservation efforts.
This is a city that is defined by water. Our communities have come to us with partnership like this to help us live with water.
This is what residents said they want and need in their communities. That's what makes this work, the community.
With over 95% of water investment taking place at the local level, building trust between water utilities and communities is essential for sustainable and equitable water management. From Tucson to Philadelphia, New Orleans to Santa Cruz, partnerships between community organizations and water utilities are building trust to better center community needs and provide safe, clean, and sustainable water for all.
First of all, I think from a utility perspective, a utility that serves all of the city, it's on us as an obligation to partner with as many people who want to partner with us.
We cannot get to all of the communities and all of the neighborhoods in Tucson. It's important for us to find those organizations and nonprofits that are already doing those works and partner with them so that they can do that reach out for us.
Tucson Water has a rebate program where all Tucson Water residential customers are able to get their systems, active or passive systems for rainwater. They pay up front and then they're able to request part of the cost back. But unfortunately for low-income communities, that was not the case. So we want to make sure that this program is accessible to the community, and especially if they want to do rainwater harvesting, that they have that opportunity.
I often say it takes a community to be a community. What I like to remind people about is that the folks that work at the pumping station are our neighbors. The folks that work at the Sewage and Water Board live in the same city that they serve. And so it takes all of us.
To be able to sit at a table and walk through issues, find solutions, is just an awesome way to build that trust and that confidence in us. And what it does, really, it brings ownership to the neighborhood that is represented by this organization because they are part of the solution.
Building trust takes time and requires shared solutions that benefit communities directly. To help cities and regions unpack this challenge locally, River Network and Water Now Alliance are convening community organizations and water utilities so we can learn from each other's success, understand how collaboration leads to better outcomes, and inspire new partnerships across the country.
The partnership that we have with Tucson Water has been amazing, very good to work with, because we have been able to make systems possible. So families are now able to acquire rainwater harvesting systems for their homes.
What started as a very small program has now blossomed into a larger program so that we are able to apply more rebates to these households. And we're exploring now our rebates not only with rainwater harvesting and the outdoors, but also with our washer rebates, as well as how to use gray water.
We're basically the beneficiary of this partnership with Healthy Community Services, whereby they are actually bringing the funding and the meaningful concept of having a device installed to capture debris before it makes its way to our pumping station.
It helps community organizations like Healthy Community Services to put tangible assets into our communities, so residents take ownership of the projects that we put in.
River Network and Water Now Alliance have produced the report Building Blocks of Trust so that others can do this work in their own communities. The report synthesizes 9 case studies that highlight steps for building authentic and equitable partnerships between community organizations and water utilities, and shares insights from on-the-ground successes.
I think one of the great lessons we learned from this was that we can't do it alone.
I think the partnership is key. You'll be definitely able to implement a lot more different programs into your community.
I would tell other utilities and head of utilities to look for opportunities for partnership where in obvious places, but sometimes in not so obvious places, and never shy away from somebody who wants to partner with you.
I think our involvement with River Network has been also very fruitful. We've been exposed to other communities and other nonprofits as well as other utilities that are also somewhat in the same boat we are, and we've been sharing that information and learning from each other.
Water has no jurisdictional boundaries. Water is non-discriminatory as it comes to race or socioeconomic status, and we're going to have to learn how to manage water and manage it effectively. And we can't wait for government to solve that problem. We have to work with our public utilities, and communities are doing it, not just here in New Orleans, all across the country.
That's what we're here for. We are working side to side with the community. We know their needs. We're able to bring the resources to the community. So I think that's definitely something that community organizations can help with.
These community organizations represent the community. They are serving the community. They want to do good things for the community. So allow them a chance to partner with you and do good things.
Learn from these examples and more by visiting rivernetwork.org/buildingtrust.
All right, let me switch back over to the slides. Now that we've had some background on how we started this, how Dr. Chalk started this relationship, I would like to say, I'm going to do a little background on the grant that we got from the Green Infrastructure Leadership Exchange to further our work, and then I'll hand it back over to Dr. Chalk to talk about the incident that made us shift gears once again. I can't do things and talk at the same time, clearly. So let me just, I think if I just restart from current, there, okay. So that was the one we just saw. Now let's talk about the stormwater trees for the 8th Ward. So this was the re-grant that the Green Infrastructure Leadership Exchange offers. I applied for it 2023, I believe, end of it. And so the blurb from what I said in that application is the vision for this project is to continue to create a greener, more equitable neighborhood using tree planting and education as the tools to accomplish it. We hope the documentation and reports of the lessons learned throughout the effort will impact the other cities in the Guile network and by providing a starting point in their own reforestation efforts. It is a known consensus within the network of GSI practitioners that a healthy urban tree canopy is vital to the health of the community. It is not, however, as well known or supported in other practices or in those communities most affected by it. Incorporating community outreach in GSI efforts is essential to the longevity of this project, as those living nearest and affected the most will be the ones to foster those trees. By partnering with grassroots community organizations, that outreach is ingrained in the effort and ensures a successful endeavor. So we endeavored to plant trees in the Seventh Ward, and this is actually one of the water utilities campuses. It's our central yard. It's where Chris is stationed, and so we met with this neighborhood quite a few, at least twice, to get their input where they think the trees would do the most, where there are, absolutely not options to plant trees, and what they would, and what kinds of trees they would like to see. So it turned into, let's screen off the industrial, plant in the middle of the neighborhood to bring up that space. So we planted red swan maples, pond cypress, and sweet bay magnolias. We did all of that in the spring, fall and spring of last year. And then before we wrapped it up and got all the way in July, our Florida tree incident happened. So I'll let Angela take it from there.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. And so well, let me just say this. Healthy Community Services works strongly on using the community engagement model. And what that means is that these actions are led by residents in the community. In my bio, you saw that I am a fourth generation resident of the Seventh Ward. However, um, I can't be the resident and the community leader. So let's get that established first. I am guided by what residents in communities say they want and need. And so I can look at it through my lens, which would most likely be through a public health lens, but I'm only one person in a community. And so I can't be the community organization and lead this effort and tell people what we should have in our neighborhood. And so I live with whatever the collective decisions are for our neighborhood. And so we have a series of community meetings to get input back. My job is then to educate people about the benefits of trees, stormwater management, coastal resiliency, whatever the programming or the topic that we're discussing. And so from there, we're able to build that relationship not only with residents, but with in this case, the public utility. And so I like to say to people that each of us are a part of a community, and each of us have a role personally and professionally that we can bring our skills and talents to whatever it may be in a community. And that's how I operate. And that's how I run the organization. What Grace didn't tell you was that in doing this community engagement was to give ownership to residents in the community. And so there's a lot of work that goes into outreach. So why not hire someone from the immediate neighborhood to do that outreach? So when we write in grants, we write in funding for stipends to provide those stipends for residents to participate. I don't know people's personal situation or economic situation. And so when we're holding these meetings, we're holding meetings where we can provide refreshments, not just pizza or what have you, but in this case, it was light finger food and refreshments because I don't know where people are coming from. And most of the time, these meetings are held in the evening. So folks are coming from work. We are asking people to take the time to come to a meeting to discuss things in their neighborhoods. And I don't know how many people that planting trees in their neighborhood is the top of their agenda after they've worked all day long. And so we use those cultural aspects to get people to the community to buy into what we're doing. Now, why is that important? This is what happened during the tragedy of the tree loss. An overzealous sewage and water board employee, because it was hot, mowed down 114 trees. Yeah, 114 trees. Guess who told me who did it? It was a neighbor. It was a neighbor that videoed the incident and came to my house, knocked on the door, and she was hysterical. And I'm like, calm down. Um, I'm thinking maybe it's a few trees. We can deal with that. Oh no. When I got to the site, I was like, oh my God, what happened? And I'm not going to tell y'all I wasn't angry. I was hot, as we say in the South. I was hotter than fish grease because the time and effort that not only did we engage with a local workforce development organization, but residents had bought in. And one of the benefits of trees is that it's calming. And so we have a gentleman in our neighborhood who has mental health issues. So now that he didn't have these trees for the last week, the first couple of weeks after that incident, he was just circling, looking for trees, looking for trees. And I knew in that moment that the person who mowed down the trees did not realize the impact that that action had on not just him, but an entire community. And so out of that came, um, what do we do to rectify this issue? And so we had a multi-agency discussion, and everybody wanted this man's head on the chopping block, and rightfully so. But in me, as the community lead from this, I took the opportunity. We have to understand why this occurred and what was the reasoning why that occurred. And to make sure that this didn't happen again with another individual in another area. People wanted this man's job. I wasn't for having another person unemployed. And then where do you go if you put on your resume you were fired? So that was not an option. It was an opportunity to take the time to do internal in-reach to the sewage and water board employees. And so what we did through the efforts of all of those folks that you see on the screen, we came up with this path forward. And this path forward was tree training, looking at it from a public health perspective, as well as an ecosystems benefit perspective. And I think my true, I'm not going to say revenge, my true, really, well, let's call it revenge because I can't think of another word. My true revenge was the fact that these gentlemen had to sit in a room and listen to me go through the presentations that will now become a training for them and to actually physically plant the tree. What did that do? By planting the tree, they now have ownership of those trees that needed to be replaced in their area. And so the activities that we did in learning about trees, understanding the health benefits of trees, understanding the ecosystems benefits of trees, this is not just a training. It was experimental because we didn't know if this would work or not. We didn't even know if these guys were going to participate, but they were engaged. And that was the benefit of this tragedy, having these men engaged, that now we developed a tree protection maintenance for the public utility, because the public utility, what we found, does not fall under the city's plan for planting trees, because the Sewage and Water Board owns their property, so they're responsible for their property. We're hoping that will come out of this with this tree planting and protection manual is that other municipalities that own property separate from the city of New Orleans will begin to use this as a template to move forward. And so we turned a tragedy into a learning experience, into an experiential experience that people now understand the health benefits of planting trees and knowing what to do in an emergency during the times of high heat indices, because no one had thought about these men being out in the heat. What happens if someone suddenly becomes ill from heat exhaustion or anything? So, Grace, I hope, and Chris, I hope they still bought in their buddy status, because we agreed that in the buddy status, one person would have the permission to go into their wallet to get their information, health information on a low card. And if not, we may need to revisit about putting health information on a low card for their wallets. And in that time, we saw these men become more cohesive together as a workforce. Where are we at today? We decided that the cost of mowing is high. And so we're looking at alternatives for that in planting trees by using land management through through prescribed burns and controlled burns. We're having a little difficulty with that. We've talked to everyone. We've talked to everyone who can do prescribed burn. The person who, and I'm going to reach out to you now because I think we have 300 people here. The person who was the instructor of leading prescribed burns, no one knows where this person went. They poof. So if anyone knows of someone who can provide training for a prescribed burn, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Let us know. Backing it up a little bit before we get to that, Grace, I'm sorry, is
No, that's
that
fine.
again, we explained the benefits, why we plant trees in an urban setting. And we looked at making sure that you use best management practices. And so out of all of this, the best management practices that will come out of that, not only for water getting into the adjacent canal, but the other drains, would be to create the prairie. And you can go to the last slide, Grace.
Okay.
To create that prairie system, to reforest the area, expand training. And ironically, there are folks here locally that when we are trying to get information about the prescribed burn, we only have funding for about 15 people, but we have about 45 to 50 people who said they're interested. And so I just put my contact information in the chat. If someone is an instructor of land management, particularly prescribed burns, give me a call. And we have funding. I'm not asking you to work for free unless you work for a utility that, they don't allow you to accept funding. But we do have funding that we pay folks for. And I want to stress that people's time is valuable. So compensate them. You can never compensate them, but let them know that you appreciate what it is that they're doing, whether they're the resident or you give an honorarium to someone who's presenting. And here in New Orleans, we believe in faith, family, and food. It's Mardi Gras season. I have a community meeting tonight. I just told my liaison pick up a king cake. So Grace, there will be king cake from Adrian's tonight at our meeting.
Okay.
And so I'll hand it over to Chris.
Chris, I was going to give you the opportunity to just talk about your side of things and a little bit of your thoughts about how the tree training went.
Y'all just won't let me live this down, huh?
Nope.
Oh well, I mean, it was receptive. It was very receptive of it. The guys, they actually enjoyed it. It was something different from what they normally do. I mean, the fact that I even learned some things that I didn't know about the trees. So I mean, most time when they're in our way, they're in our way. So those trees, that's the way we looked at it before we did the training. That's the way they looked at it. Okay, we had to take the trees down. Or we get a complaint about a resident complaint about the trees, not understanding the ramifications of taking the tree down. Most of the time I get an arborist or something like that, we get the trees removed, but it was the first time that I actually had to endure this type of situation I'm still dealing with to this day, because it still hasn't died down. I'm still dealing with that. Especially since it happened on my watch, you know. So I said it was receptive of it. I think it'll make my guys more mindful of their surroundings and what's actually going on around them. Like, even my operator should have used better judgment than that, you know. So I would have never authorized him to do that, because, like I said, it doesn't make sense. To this day, it still doesn't make sense to me. But I do understand that, you know, it was a miscommunication about how many trees were being planted, and that it was a kind of it kind of hindered them from doing their job, which that wasn't been, to me, wouldn't have been the course of action to take. We could have figured something else out, but yeah, I mean, hopefully going forward, I mean, these classes continue. This wasn't a one-time thing, and, you know, they get, I don't know, shit, yeah, Mr. Chalk, you started this, put me in the fire, and now you in grace. So
it's a good fire. It's a
yeah.
prescribed fire.
Yeah. Find somebody that's prescribed burn so we could be done with that canal. And
We do.
but I mean, like I said, they was receptive of it. My guys, I mean, responded. They responded to it pretty good. I didn't have any complaints, anything like that. Even the guy that actually caused, all this, maybe it was something that I look at it as this. It was something that needed to happen. So bad stuff that happened on our watch, but it needed to happen. So it brought more awareness to them, and they understand, they understand more. They actually enjoyed it. So I was surprised they enjoyed it, but they actually enjoyed it. So they was really engaged. So I mean, going forward, hopefully the training continues and they get to learn more about it.
Yeah, I think they really did enjoy getting out and actually planting that tree. I wanted to add a couple things before we have time for questions. I wanted to give a shout out to Green Infrastructure Leadership Exchange and Barbara and Nina and everyone involved. That I sent them a request right when this happened to use the remaining of our funding on that grant to do this, to create this tree training, to put in the hours to create this manual and this content. And also wanted to give a shout out to our Parks and Parkways department, who, also put in their content and came and did the training with their background and knowledge. And they're really excited to do it too, because we're all trying to figure out how we can reach the right people and train the right people that are actually hands-on in the field to understand these things. And it's not always as easy as it sounds. I also took the opportunity to pull in some stormwater best management practices for my department, because that's also really difficult to actually get out into the public and into the contractors and everybody that's doing this training. So we want to digitize, I guess, this training so that it's more attainable for everybody that works at the public water utility. We have over 1,200 people that work here, across the board, and also the public, and also the Parks and Parkways department, anybody that deals with landscaping or grounds maintenance, that they understand how our stormwater system works, the intricacies of it, and how to best management practices of working around it. So those are goals for us moving forward. And then, yeah, we had Dr. Chalk had this great idea because of the feedback that we got from Chris and the maintenance hassles. We want to go back with a clustered tree planting so that's easier to deal with, and then pilot this urban prairie situation in between. So it's a lot. It's 2,000 linear feet that you're looking at, and there's the canal on top. And the other interesting part of this site is that it's only about 10 to 12 feet wide, and it's very deeply sloped. So it's dangerous to do anything really on foot. You can twist your ankle and fall down really easily. That's why they were only using machinery to cut it in the first place. So having something that's truly low maintenance, that's truly helping the ecosystem, and then to reforest the area are our next goals. So thanks.